Before we start today's show, I want to tell you guys about a great libertarian blog called The Liberty Theorist. The Liberty Theorist is where our friend Brad Tracy discusses all of the shady things government has been up to and why libertarianism is the only viable way to keep power out of the hands of government. Brad is a Rothbardian libertarian who believes that the U.S. is desperately in need of prison reform. I'll give you a hell yeah to that. I agree there. That victimless crime should be abolished. Yes, agree with that. And that we need to end the welfare, warfare, and spy state. Yep, follow along with you there. And that true free market capitalism is the only way to go. Well, socialism kills human production. Can't argue with that. Bottom line, the government should stay the hell out of your life. You can find The Liberty Theorist by going to medium.com/ that's the @ Liberty Theorist. You can also find it on Facebook at facebook.com/ The Liberty Theorist. Check it out today.
Welcome to Felony Friday, a presentation of the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here is your host, John Odermatt.
Felons, friends, and freedom lovers, welcome back to another edition of Felony Friday, a weekly show right here on the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here at Lions of Liberty, we have a bit of a variety channel. My Friday show, Felony Friday, is one of the great shows, but there's two more on Monday and Wednesday. Monday's show hosted by Mark Claire, Wednesday by Brian McWilliams. They both bring their own flavor and flair to the podcasting game. Check those out. Subscribe to Lions of Liberty on your podcasting app to get all three. And today's episode of Felony Friday is another great one. I have an awesome guest lined up who is going to share another story of injustice in the criminal justice system. And we're going to shine a light, and we are going to keep the momentum going. Keep the momentum going for change in the criminal justice system. So share this show, tell a friend, text it to a friend, tell a stranger on the street. I don't care. Enjoy today's show. My guest today on Felony Friday is Cynthia Solis. Cynthia's husband, Baldemar Solis, is serving a life sentence for a nonviolent crime, for a drug conspiracy case. Cynthia is very active, working for clemency for her husband and clemency for others in the criminal justice community. So I wanted to have her on the show to talk about her husband's case and about criminal justice reform in general. So Cynthia, welcome to Felony Friday.
Hello. Nice to meet you guys. My name is Cynthia Solis.
Yes, thank you for coming on the show. And, you know, a lot of times I bring on people who have, been through the system themselves and have come out on the other side to share their story and to share the injustice that they've suffered. But I will bring on also spouses and loved ones of people who are still incarcerated. I think that's also very, very important. And that's the case here, obviously, with your husband. So I want to talk about, exactly what happened with the case and the status of his case now and paths for clemency, for release. But before we do that, just to kind of set the stage, if you could just share some background about you and your husband and what your life was like prior to him being arrested.
My husband and I had been together since I was 17 years old, and I'm 45 years old now, so we've spent a lot of time together, and we had a 16-year-old son. Well, actually, he was 14 whenever he left, and then we also had a daughter, because my husband actually went on the run for 6 years because his attorney had advised him to do that because some of his friends had gotten picked up, and his attorney said that it would be better if he went on the run because he didn't know when he would be able to be walking out of those doors again. So he completely scared my husband. And so my husband left, not knowing exactly if they were even going to come after him or not. He just left. And we were in South Padre Island, and my mother called us and said that that the FBI had come to her house looking for him. And so he never came back home. Me and my son came home, and that was in 2012, June in 2012. And we didn't, before we went on vacation, our life was normal. Like, he did storage wars, and he would buy and sell cars, and but storage wars was his main thing. And so my son wasn't used to not having his father around, and we had to go back and forth. He was on the run for actually 6 years.
Wow.
Yes.
Were you able to stay in contact with him when he was on the run, or?
We could stay in contact with him every now and then. During the time that he was on the run, we also had a daughter, and she was 2 years old whenever they came and picked him up in 2016. But we would definitely be in contact whenever we could, when school had vacation or whatnot. When they did come on September 16, 2016, we were there. Me and my daughter were there with my husband, and luckily they didn't take me with them.
So what was the case? What charges was he facing?
The case was possession of a controlled substance with intent to deliver, a conspiracy case. But he had not even been indicted yet or anything. During the time that he was on the run, they had written an article about him that they tried to put a hit on a police officer, that he had tried to put a hit on a police officer. We did not know what that was about. We didn't even know who the policeman was, but 8 officers had been had been fired from the Arlington Police Department in Texas. And at the end of everything, he was cleared from that. But when they picked him up, they told us that he had to start talking. They knew that he knew people, and if they didn't, that they were going to come and pick me up as well.
So when they threatened him, saying that he needed to start talking, he ended up taking the case to trial, correct, or no?
Yes, he definitely took the case to trial. He didn't have anything to talk about, so he took the case to trial. During the time that they were accusing him of doing the things that he did, he was actually in rehab. I did an intervention on him because he had a drug problem. And whenever he was accused of selling all this dope, he was in rehab. And so when we were at trial, 3 people spoke against him, and all the people never knew when or how long he had been to rehab. They had said that he was there for a whole year. One of them said that he was there for 6 months, which he had only been there for 30 days. And during the time that they had said that they were buying drugs from him, it wasn't matching up, because the people from the rehab place actually came and spoke on his behalf and actually proved the days that he was there. And so I don't know if the jury just didn't hear it or where they got lost, because that proved that he was not there selling those drugs that they were saying that he was selling.
So did they have what evidence did they have against him? Was it just testimony of other people accusing him?
Yes, it was hearsay and ghost dope.
Evidence and ghost dope. Wow. That's too common. That's what it seems like it always is.
Yes.
So going into the trial itself, did you know potentially he could end up with a life sentence?
Well, no, we definitely did not know. They had, like you said, it sounds too common. To us, it wasn't common at the time, because we felt that we could win it. And we were going to win the case because we had all this proof proving his innocence. But since they had told him that they would give him a 45-year sentence, if he if he took a plea bargain, it was going to be 45 years. He was 43, 42 years old whenever they caught him. So signing for 45 years is pretty much a life sentence. And if he would have signed, he wouldn't have been able to fight it or even have a way to get out.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to take it to trial, not knowing that he could actually get a life sentence. We thought they were bluffing us. We thought as soon as they hear our case, they're gonna know that we're innocent. Up until they found him guilty, we thought we had won.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was that like when you heard the verdict read then?
It was the most horrible feeling in the world. I ran into the restroom crying, and a bunch of DEA agents came running out behind me, and they were pounding on the door of the restroom. And I didn't understand. Then my cousin came inside and said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Of course I'm okay. What do you mean?" She said, the feds are waiting for you outside the restroom door. And as soon as she said that, they busted the door open in the restroom. And they said, "Are there any jurors in the restroom?" They thought I was going to try to hurt the jurors in the restroom.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes.
Wow. So the sentencing was in what year? How many years ago?
20. He went to court on 2016, but he was not sentenced until 2017.
Okay. Did they hold it against him in court that he was, quote unquote, on the run? Was that something that was brought up?
Actually, they did not. It was brought up a little bit, but their main focus was really on the fact that he had put a hit on the police officer.
So that was the focus, but that wasn't even a part of what he was convicted of.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know if you know this, but have you heard of Ross Ulbricht?
No.
Ross Ulbricht is a guy. He was probably 22 years old when he created a website called Silk Road, which was a website on the dark web where people could go buy and sell mostly marijuana. That's essentially what it was. And the feds got involved, and they were actually acting as administrators on the site. And when they arrested Ross and they bring him to trial, they did the same thing. They brought up that they said they had evidence that Ross had put a hit out, and then all of a sudden, after he's convicted, that just went away and it was nothing. So this might be a common tactic that they use.
Right. Well, that's what we kind of thought. We thought that they were making it such a big deal because we had no clue who this man was. But the fact that they had posted a newspaper article about it and completely, they even added me into the article, and they were saying a bunch of things for me. And I mean, I had a job. My coworkers read all that. It was so embarrassing to us. And but at his sentencing date, the judge actually ordered the police officer to show up for court, which was something that we wanted from the beginning because we knew that the main focus of him being there was because of this cop. And so we wanted to clear our name. And our judge was John McBryde. I don't know if you've heard of him before.
No.
He's a really, really tough judge. I think he's going to be 90 years old soon. And so our attorney didn't want to bring up the fact that that he had not put a hit on a police officer, and she didn't want to request for him to be there because she said, "I won't get time to clear your name, and the jurors will only see cop killer." And so she didn't think it was in our best interest to do that. So luckily, whenever he was sentenced, the judge subpoenaed him to be there. And when he was there, he was on the bench, and the judge is asking him questions, and he got really upset at the police officer, and he said, "Sir, do you understand that you have brought this case to where it's at right now? And I've seen a lot of smoke with no fire, and I cannot believe that you have led this to go get this far, because you have absolutely no evidence at all whatsoever to hold against this man, and you brought this case to be where it's at." Wow. And yeah, he was pretty upset. And so after he cleared him. He told the PSR lady, hey, his points should go below life. And I don't know what exactly the terminology that they used or whatever, but they said it does not go below life because of something, I guess, because he took it to trial and his points did not go below life. So they gave him life. And then they also had given him a leadership role, and they had charged him for something that he did when he was like 17 or 18 years old. I think a possession of marijuana or something. Mm-hmm. And so his points were way above normal. Way higher than they were supposed to be, but then they put it to like the maximum points that he could actually be charged with.
How's it been for you, having your husband in prison, having the father of your children in prison? How have you been able to deal with that?
It's been the hardest thing in my life. My son now, he's 19 years old. And he just went off to college. And my daughter just started kindergarten. So I've done whatever I can to be the best mom and dad that I can possibly be. I thought it was going to be so easy to get him out once they found out that he was not guilty and that they used hearsay and that they did ghost dope. And I figured once an attorney listened to us that it was going to be so easy to bring him home. And then I found out later that this is so common. Mm-hmm. This is not something that's that easy for someone to come home on. And now my kids are just waiting for one of his appeals to go through or just some kind of positive. I've always tried to stay positive about it because I never want to believe that he's going to be there for life. I totally believe he will be coming home. I don't know how yet, but I know he doesn't deserve to be there. He's actually sitting 50 yards away from El Chapo.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and we actually have not seen him for 3 years now because they had sent him to Chicago, and he was in a county jail in Chicago for 2 years, I believe. And then if we would have gone to visit, it would have been a 20-minute visitation behind glass, and I couldn't see me taking my children up there to see their father behind the glass for 20 minutes, being that we live in Texas. And then he finally got changed to Colorado, and he was finally approved. And right when he was approved, we were getting ready to go there whenever coronavirus hit.
So how do you keep in touch? Just with phone calls and letters? That's
emails.
Mm-hmm. How's coronavirus been in the prison where he is?
Well, as far as he knows, there hasn't been not one case of the virus there yet.
That's good.
Yes, but he says that they're still on lockdown, so they get out at least 1 or 2 hours a day. And the rest of it, he says it's like kind of being in your closet for the rest of the day.
It's unimaginable. So
yes.
Going forward from here, what are the avenues for clemency or for compassionate release, or what are the options?
He did his direct appeal, which of course was denied. He just finished turning in his 2255, which is the second appeal, and that was denied. So we came back with, I guess, a response to the denial, and that was denied on the 8th, and the judge hadn't even received it. The judge received it on the 9th, but he denied it on the 8th.
How do you know that he didn't receive it? Or
well, it shows like when they received it, And and when he didn't, the judge hadn't even received it, and he had already denied it. And he also denied, I don't know, another word that my husband said, but my husband hadn't even filed for that yet either. So he denied that and something else just so that he wouldn't come back with something to try to, I guess, have any kind of backup.
What about compassionate release as a route? Because does that go to the judge, or does that go to the prosecutor, or both?
I'm not sure about that yet. I just found out Friday, I found out that his 2255 response had been denied also. So we still haven't even gotten to the next step yet.
Yeah.
So I'm really not too sure about that.
Hey, just want to take a real quick minute here to talk about another libertarian podcast. If you haven't listened to Good Morning Liberty, it's a 5-day per week show. Nate and Charlie, I don't know how they do it, 5 days per week, pumping out fantastic content. Also, their Twitter game, I have to say, I've been following them on Twitter, is on point. At Good AM Liberty. Check it out. I don't know if it's Nate or Charlie running the account, but whichever one is doing it, fantastic job. Also, their show. So what is their show? They are trying to really take the onus of trying to change people's minds of how people view libertarians. And they're trying to do this by leading with a message of compassion first, rather than, pounding on your keyboard and screaming at people like libertarians love to do. So they're looking at ways in which policies impact people and using the principles of liberty to provide compassionate solutions. They both have backgrounds in healthcare. They own a healthcare IT company. Check it out, Good Morning Liberty, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also subscribe to their podcast by going to bernielies.com, which so awesome redirects right to their podcast links page. So check that out. Good Morning Liberty. You've been active in other protests, right, for criminal justice reform?
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. I've been doing some protest at FMC Fort Worth and at FMC Carswell. And we started that whenever the coronavirus hit, because my uncle was actually at FMC Fort Worth, and he there was no toilet paper, there was no soap, there was no masks, there was absolutely nothing for them to protect themselves. And there were some people that were subject to leave. They said they were gonna be released to home confinement, and then at the last minute, he caught the virus, and so they didn't let him come home, and so they didn't have any toilet paper for 2 weeks. They didn't have no soap to wash their cells or anything. They had gotten a cotton cloth mask that didn't fit them, and they had that for, I believe, like a month or two.
Jeez.
So, yeah.
But your uncle's out. Your uncle's out now.
Yeah, so we kept going for like 2 months. I was going daily.
Wow.
And yes, and he's out, and we were sending some letters to the warden, and we were able to get 6 people, I believe, 6 men out, and 4 women were released also. Well, I'm not saying we, but we were just out there helping and doing our part in it, because there were so many moving pieces that I'm sure finally got the release of people. But
right. Well, it takes everything. It takes pressure from every angle to make that happen. Yes. So that's great. So speaking to, other people out there, to, listeners of this show, maybe who have a loved one who is in prison, and, maybe they have a certainty or, certainty of a release date or, something like that, or maybe it's other individuals who, their husband or loved one is serving a life sentence. What sort of advice would you have for them on how to deal with it, and how to work through, and on how to help to comfort the loved one who is in prison?
Well, The advice that I have, definitely always be there for them, always to at least answer the phone. That's the only thing that they have with the outside world. I believe if they wouldn't have that, I don't think they could make it in there. It is extremely rough in there for them. Where my husband is, and I'm sure if anybody who has a life sentence, they're going to be at a USP. So those kind of places are just horrible. I mean, Unabombers are there. And so I would just try to be there for them as much as possible. And as far as for the person themselves, just, I don't know. I find comfort with my children because I have to have something to take my focus off on my husband, because I'm trying my best to try to bring him home, and reading every article, trying to just talk to the right people and focus on who do we speak to. But I don't know exactly what kind of advice. Take your vitamins and get ready.
Yeah. So do you think that, I mean, I know at the beginning you mentioned that you and your husband, didn't know how common this was. What's the best way to educate people so everyone understands that, this is really like an epidemic? I mean, this happens consistently across the country with ghost dope, with, hearsay testimony. Just speak out on that for a bit.
I wish so many people would be aware of this, that this has been happening in our own backyards for many, many years. This is not something that's new. It's just people that don't go through something like this don't even know that this is even a possibility. They don't even believe me when I tell people, hey, this is what happened to my husband. But what do people say when you tell them? They say, come on, Cynthia, tell me what he really did. That's what they say.
Well, it's important to point that out there, because I think that's like probably the general opinion. Probably most people would respond like that, because they don't believe it. They think we live in a society with a justice system, a just system, which we don't.
Right. And I was doing Uber and Lyft for a while, and so I was driving people back and forth, and some of them were judges, some of them were just regular people, and the majority of the people, I would say 80 to 85% of the people did not know. And I've spoken to a lot of people, like I said, through Uber and Lyft, and they all were in shock of what I was saying. They just couldn't believe it. And so I wish during the pandemic, I wished that there was something that people, like, say a commercial, kind of like a Black Lives Matter commercial, that people could have had to have watched a video or watch something that to educate them about our justice system, because it's not fair that the government keeps getting away with all these unjust things, and our families are being torn apart, and our kids are suffering, and it keeps happening every single day, and they just continue getting away with it. And it's almost kind of like it's the good old boy system, and they're allowed to do it to us, Yeah,
and this is I'll say it again, completely, nonviolent, victimless crime. What was the amount of drugs that they said for the ghost dope?
I don't even know. I know it was a large amount of kilos. Yes, but I mean, the thing of it is that we weren't living a life that would have matched up to those kilos of cocaine. We were living in a rental house, and my car was like a 96 Honda Accord. And I mean, if we were really and truly living that lifestyle, I think we'd be living a little bit better.
Right.
So, but they don't care. They don't really care. They just, and if they would have been doing their research, then they wouldn't need these witnesses those witnesses weren't even, what is that word? They couldn't even stand trial for their own selves, but yet they were able to stand against my husband. Oh, they were credible. They were not credible witnesses, obviously. And if they weren't credible on their own behalf, two of them were in prison, and they lessened their time to come home.
That should be illegal. I mean, it's criminal that they're allowed to do that they're allowed to hold that incentive out there and still use that testimony during a trial. That's insanity, that you can trade. All you have to do is say this and we'll let you go home a little bit earlier. It's criminal.
Yes. One of the ladies, she had, I believe, a 15-year sentence, and she had only done 3 years. And she was able to walk out a month after she gave my husband's testimony against my husband.
And had your husband ever even heard of the lady before or know who she was? Or
she would play, because he would play like casino games at different stores and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so she would play there also. So she knew of him, but she was like every one of the witnesses said, we are looking to be amongst our families sooner than later. So their reasoning behind it was not that they were able to, they asked them, did the government offer you anything? And they said, no, we're just looking to walk amongst our families sooner than later. And all three of them had the same testimony. And when...
I've never heard that said before. Wow. So they all said that same exact thing.
Yes. Yes.
They must have been coached to say that then.
They definitely were. That's another thing. Whenever they were in the back, some of the people that were back there with them, that rode on the bus with my husband back, they said they didn't even know what to say. They were sitting there asking each other, what is it that we were supposed to say? And what was it? What was this? And it was, yeah, they were definitely coerced onto what to say. And the jury was falling asleep during the time of the trial. Like, it lasted one day and it should have lasted weeks, they said. But mm-hmm. We got there at 7:00 in the morning and we left at 8:30 p.m. that evening. And it was just insane.
That's amazing I know the sentencing didn't happen that same day, but for the verdict to come down just in a day, it's hard to believe something with that much of an impact on so many lives.
Right.
Well, I want to thank you, Cynthia, for coming on the show and sharing, sharing your husband's story, sharing your story. And when you were talking about having a commercial at the Super Bowl, that would be awesome to have that. Right now, we have this show where we can share these stories, and maybe someday this will turn into something bigger, and we can get a bigger platform. But yes. This will go out to thousands of people, so that's a good thing. Trying to chip away at the broken criminal justice system, one swing of the axe at a time. But before I let you go, just any parting words, anything else you'd like to add?
No, not at the moment. I don't have anything. Just, I don't know. I just wish, like you said, we had a platform, or maybe Kim Kardashian would come out with something and
there you go.
Help us use her platform to make people listen.
Well, people joke about that, and I have friends that joke about it. And I understand that she's a reality TV star and her past and all that stuff, but she still has done tremendous work for the criminal justice movement. I mean, you can't take that away from her.
Definitely not. I am so happy. I'm so proud that she would even take any kind of concern towards this, because this is a serious thing that's happening in our world today. And it's such a sad thing that not enough Americans know about it. Mm-hmm. I wish they could teach it in school. Like my son, he just graduated from school, and I wish that everybody should learn about how easy it is to get a life sentence in the United States of America, because there's people who are dying trying to come here from Mexico or from other countries to be here in land of the free, home of the brave, but yet they just don't understand how easy it is to get in trouble here. I was actually very, very lucky to not be one of their victims. So...
yeah, that's true. Because they'll try to rope everyone in they can to it.
Yes. They were trying to make my husband squeeze something out of him, just so if not, they were going to come and pick me up. And that was just like uncalled for. I mean, why would they? That's pretty much putting a knife to your neck. Hey, say something about your wife, or else we're going to go and get her. Mm-hmm. Luckily, and our attorney told me, Cynthia, if I had somewhere to hide you right now, I would. And when she told me that that was the worst thing I could have heard, because I knew that meant business.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is, it's extremely disturbing for us that are left out here on our own to figure life out on our own. Like, I'm living with PTSD, with depression and all this, just thinking that maybe they are going to come back and get me. Maybe they are going to keep an eye on my son. My son is named after my husband. How do I know that they're not going to try to do something to him, or like it? They can do so many wrongs to us that I'm just so scared every single day that I make sure I look both ways. I use my blinker. It's just left me at that. And I think they're listening to me, and it's horrible. It's horrible to move forward from this, even if I know I have to, but I have children, and it's hard for me to live a normal life.
That's sad. And, hopefully they're not listening and they're not following you, but who the heck knows? I mean,
right.
Who knows? But you just got to stay as positive as you can. And I think you're doing a fantastic job with that. And also with, the work you're doing, protesting and helping those people to walk free down there in Texas. So
thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on the show, Cynthia. I really do appreciate it. And hopefully a time from now, 6 months, a year from now, we can have you and your husband back on.
Oh, that would be amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Right, hope you enjoyed that episode with another awesome guest here on Felony Friday. A couple things before you go about your day and scramble off to listen to your next podcast. Just want to remind you of a couple things. First of all, the Lions of Liberty Forum. Are you in it? Have you joined it? It's on Facebook. It's a great place to go to talk about the ideas of liberty, talk about criminal justice reform, all that great stuff. Just go to Facebook. You know that site, right? Just type in the top there, the search bar, Lions of Liberty Forum. It pops up. You click join. We let you in. Easy as that. Do it now. Also, for those of you who know me, who follow me on the social media, you know that I'm passionate about gut health, plant-based supplements, all that good stuff, really healing the body from the inside out. If you or someone you love is also interested in really natural healing, getting your gut healthy, overcoming things like anxiety, inflammation, IBS, or maybe you're just trying to lose a few pounds. So much is tied to our gut. 70% of our immunity resides in our gut. 90% of our serotonin is made in our gut. 50% of our dopamine. The gut-brain axis is a real thing, my friends. When they talk about a gut feeling, that's real because there's a connection there. You get the stress of feeling. You feel the upset stomach. That's a real thing. So if you're interested in learning more about gut health, probiotic systems, and healing from the inside out, striking the root, let me know. I just did a webinar on it. So if you want to check it out, hit me up on my social medias on Instagram at John Odermatt or Twitter at John Odermatt, or you can find me on the Facebook. That's all I got for you guys today. And if you have anything for me, any topic suggestions for Felony Friday, as always, you can reach out to me, Felony Friday at lionsofliberty.com. Hope you all have a great weekend. Always remember to keep your head up and the fires of liberty burning.